St. George and the Dragon. This is the tale of St. George and the Dragon. There was a great and terrible dragon that lived in a faraway kingdom who was terribly ferocious, and everybody feared him. The dragon lived in a cave, and every day he would come out of that cave and demand tribute from the folk. And he demanded much, at first livestock, but later he demanded people. The people were chosen by lot, so that one day it might be your turn, or perhaps the next day. You never knew when the dragon might come for you, and naturally, this went on for some time, until eventually the king's own daughter was chosen. So the king put on a brave face and said, "My dear daughter, you have been chosen to be sacrificed to the dragon, and you must go." For though it caused him great sorrow, he knew the rule of law applies equally to all. Downcast but dutiful, the king's men escorted the princess to the edge of town, to where they dared go no further. And then the princess headed off alone, toward the dragon's cave. Meanwhile, as the princess makes her way to the dragon's lair, there arrived in the kingdom Sir George, a very noble knight. Coming into the kingdom, George's path crossed with the princess, and he saw her crying as she walked alone. Concerned, George asks her why she is crying. She tells him, saying, "Alas, I am going to be sacrificed to a terrible dragon, and there is no hope for me. All who have gone before me have been lost to the dragon's fiery wrath." George is brave and vows to save the princess, saying, "Fear not, I shall save you." So they travel together, continuing on their way until they arrive at the dragon's lair. As they approach, they see that the dragon had already come out of his cave, expecting his sacrifice. Upon seeing Sir George on his horse beside the princess, the dragon bellows loudly, shakes his great tail, and breathes fire and smoke. And George and the princess flee. George was a holy man, and so, in response to his fear of the dragon, he prayed to God. In humility he asked, "O Lord, grant me the strength I need to stand against this wicked dragon." And God did hear his prayer, for as the dragon came upon him again, he smote him with a spear. The dragon felt pain for the first time in his life. It was as though God himself had sent a bolt of lightning from heaven, he thought, for the wound was searing like fire. The dragon recoiled in pain, and George pressed his attack, chasing after him and wounding him over and over. And finally, the dragon, exhausted and weak and feeling pain for the first time in his long life, falls down. Then George, seeking to bind him, searches around for something for the task. The princess gives him her girdle, her belt, and he wraps it around the dragon's jaws, tying them tightly shut. The dragon, though wanting to bite and claw, could not do so with the girdle around his mouth. And so George led him through the kingdom, and the folk people cried out in terror as they saw the beast. But George shouted to them, saying, "Do not fear, for if you believe in God, then he will protect you. And I shall slay this beast before your very eyes." And then George said, "Do you believe in God?" And they said, "Yes." So George said then, "If you will convert to Christianity right now, then God will drive out this evil dragon and protect you forever." And the people agreed. Then George took the dragon to the river, and he made the sign of the cross and fought the dragon once more. This time, however, the dragon was terrified, both of George and the sight of the people united and steadfast in their new faith. The dragon knew that his time had come to an end, and he tried to flee. But with God and the people on his side, George pressed on and finally slew the dragon. Clouds covered the sky, and as the people looked on in awe, the ground shook with a mighty earthquake, and the dragon was no more. Then the clouds parted and light shone through, warming all of the people gathered together in faith and hope. George turned to the people and said, "See, the Lord has delivered you from the clutches of the dragon. Do you see how powerful is our Lord?" And the people said, "Yes." On that day, thousands of men and women converted to Christianity, changing the kingdom forever. There was a great celebration afterward, and the king held a great feast for the people. And after the celebrations were done, he built a church in the place where the dragon had been slain. And a spring of miraculous water appeared there as well. When they saw the spring, the king and all of the people thanked God for delivering them from the clutches of the dragon. And Sir George became known, or perhaps renowned, as St. George. The end.